Very good. Let's get started. So I have 2 o'clock East Coast time on the calendar here. So good day and welcome to the Zomentum MSP Enablement Webinar Series. I'm Brian Sherman, Content Director for Get Channeled and moderator for today's panel discussion. If I can get my slides to move here, we will be great. There we go. Very cool. Our topic of conversation for the next hour is incremental sales. Keep it nice and simple. While adding new clients is always a good thing for MSPs, expanding your revenue streams with existing customers typically offers a greater ROI with solid profits and little or no cost of acquisition. Our panel will share and discuss some innovative ways to create new income for your IT services firm. The esteemed group of channel experts joining me for this conversation include Dan Wensley, CEO of ScalePad, Ryan Goodman, President of Connect Booster, and Ted Roller, Channel Chief of Zomentum. I am going to get to those gentlemen just shortly, but I'm looking forward to a lively conversation and encourage attendees to use the Q&A box on the GoToWebinar app with any of the questions that they have too. So let's get things rolling. Let me make sure that everybody can see everybody here. Okay, can we see everybody? I am looking.
You're good, Brian.
Very good. Let's start off with some introductions. Dan, why don't you kick things off for us?
Sure, welcome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Ted and Ryan. Looking forward to the conversation today. Introduction, my name's Dan Wensley. I'm the CEO here at ScalePad. Many of you may know us as Warranty Master as we went through a rebranding in late 2020 with the expansion of our platform to include software asset management. Historically, we've been known as warranty services and hardware asset management application, and thanks to the guidance of our partners and the adoption of the global IT services community, we really expanded our platform to now include hardware, software, and expanded warranty service offerings. So very much looking forward to today's conversation because it is in complete alignment with all of the conversations and interactions we've had with our partners, specifically over the last 12 months, and look forward to sharing some of those and discussing these topics with you three.
Very good. Why don't we hand over to Ryan? Tell us a little about yourself, Ryan.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Goodman. Again, as you see from the background, I'm in tropical North Dakota. I am the president and one of the original founders of Connect Booster. So we are a payments platform that's integrated into the tools that we all use inside of our respective industry here, the channel, to make it really ridiculously easy for your customers to pay you. As well as automate all of the processes once that money comes in, an electronic payment to create efficiencies around mapping those payments to accounting, saving hours of time, and ultimately crushing aging AR inside of your business. We all know cash is king, and we make that priority inside of your business. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is Rev, which is our partner program, which brings a new revenue opportunity and stream. It fits right inside of exactly the subject matter that we're talking about today, incremental revenue and growing wallet share inside of your client base. And so looking forward to sharing and looking forward to the conversation with the rest of the individuals on the panel as well.
Very good. And bring us home. Our third panelist, Ted Roller.
Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I'll tell you guys a little story. My name is Ted Roller. I'm Channel Chief with Zomentum. Back when I was an MSP, which was a long time ago, I actually sold that business in 2006. I used to go to a few events, and I would see this guy wandering around the events all the time named Dan Wensley. And I just absolutely looked up to him for what he was doing in the channel and for the channel. He used to say, a high tide raises all boats, and that's how we should all think at Level Platforms. I don't know if anybody even remembers Level Platforms anymore, but they were one of the defining vendors in the space at the time. So, 12, 15, I don't know, however many years later, it's just awesome to be here on a panel with the esteemed Dan Wensley. So let's shift to Zomentum. Zomentum is a sales enablement platform that is built specifically for the MSP channel. we are all about helping MSPs move core competency not only from a technical perspective, but from a sales and marketing perspective as well. I think it's critically important as the community we're in has been invested in an amazing way over the last 5 to 10 years. It continues to become, I mean, an essential industry as COVID taught us, and competition as a direct result for every MSP is ramping up. Organic growth is just not necessarily a strategy for success anymore. And Zomentum gives you the tools that have heretofore not been really around the channel to drive sales growth in an intentional fashion as opposed to an organic one.
Very cool.
Just for the record, Brian, the only reason he looked up to me is because I'm taller, just so we're all clear.
No, it was your hockey skills. It was those mad hockey skills. We used to, anyway, that's a story for another time.
I'm feeling very lucky to be with the history of the channel that's here, especially in the managed services. Not myself, but all of you. Anyway, let's kick off the questions, because I know we want to focus on sales and use some of the expertise from you and also some of the stories from your partners as well. But why should, and I'm going to leave this roundtable style, so I'm going to throw it out there. I want you guys to answer. You can jump in wherever, but why should MSPs focus on incremental revenue? Why not just go out and get new clients?
I'm happy to start that one.
Okay, go Ted.
So when you look at a vendor business, the reason monthly recurring revenue matters, the reason that vendors have monthly recurring models is simply because we work with MSPs who grow. And because you guys grow, we grow as a direct result of the sales effort that you put out there. That's a big value proposition associated with working with MSPs. It's one of the things that makes the model so investable. The same thing applies to every MSP out there. It is 7 times easier, I think, or maybe that's another stat I'm getting mixed up, but either way, it is a whole lot easier to grow your wallet share with your existing customers. They have already made a decision to work with you. They are already counting on you to solve their problems. They are already in a trust mode with your business, and you have the opportunity to identify solutions from the inside of their business instead of the outside of your business. You have to win all of that when you're trying to sign up a new customer. But if you can get 20% additional revenue annually from your existing base, you grow by 20% a year without adding a single additional customer. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that you shouldn't be working intentionally on both, but if you're not working intentionally on both, you're either missing a 20% growth opportunity annually, or you're missing out on the opportunity to expand your business and make it safer from the standpoint of risk. The more customers you have, the lower your risk profile is, and that's just an advantage too.
Yeah, 100%. I think some of the math you were talking about there, you said 7 times easier, and that falls right in line with cost too. So I mean, you can take that ease factor and you can transfer it right over to it. It costs about 3 to 5 times the amount to go out and get a new customer versus selling into an existing one. And when you really break that down and think about what that means, yeah, I mean, all the sales marketing efforts, all of the no's that you have to go through to bring on a new client, there's time, effort, energy, and the ability to dig into a relationship where there's already trust built. It just flat out makes sense. I know inside of our businesses, we have an ecosystem that we're cross-selling all the time between payments and consulting, and software as a service, and you have to band your organization around the goals, exterior, new client acquisition, along with inside sales targets. And then I know we'll probably get into some of these questions, but there's some real great strategies that you can use to then drive that behavior within your organization, to hit those company objectives, inside growth and outside growth.
Very
Yeah,
good.
Brian, I'd really echo, I think, both what Ryan and Ted covered. I mean, cost of acquisition, or CAC, from the financial term, is definitely lower, expanding your wallet share with inside your customer. Also, the other acronym we should share is ARPA, average revenue per account. This is a metric that should be absolutely monitored and managed by every business and operator. And if you're increasing your ARPA, the outcome of that, when you do go into NCA, to use another acronym, new customer acquisition, that's even more viable. So it might lower your CAC because your ARPA is higher with all of your customers. So when you do an NCA deal, it's actually larger. But there's a third point I'll make, and it was from a research paper I recently reviewed. Driving top line revenue is top of mind for the IT services community here coming into 2021, absolutely. But when asked where it was going to come from, the traditional answer, and the right answer, in my opinion, came back, which was from referrals. So I would also measure your ARPA, your average revenue per account, per client, as a measuring stick of how much value you're delivering to them. So not only is it self-serving, hey, I want to drive top line revenue for my business, so I'm going to go sell more services and more value to my customers. That's obviously a good thing, but it has so many, downstream benefits to that. You've improved your relationship with your customer. You are driving more value to them, and that's going to make it maybe even easier for them to refer you to another client to drive your NCA business as well. So I really see it as what can be perceived as a self-serving, focus, to really a win-win focus and opportunity for both MSPs and their customers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was actually talking to Paul Nebb last week, Titan Technologies MSP, and he was kind of laying the same part is if he walks in and he finds out he can help streamline their suppliers. If you think about it from an MSP's perspective, if you can use less suppliers, it simplifies the management, cuts your costs. It's kind of the same thing from his perspective, is he can go in and replace the phone provider, for example, or a managed print provider. It's one throat to choke, going back to that old point. And at the same point, he can make additional revenue, but he can also typically find them savings along the way too. So it should be looked at as a good win-win in those options.
Yeah, one other additional thing there, Brian. It's interesting how I have heard MSPs actually say, I don't want to be perceived as a salesperson by my customers. But the simple truth is, your existing customers are counting on you to bring new technologies forward and help them accelerate and be more competitive. That doesn't mean you win every opportunity that you bring forward, but it does mean that you have an ongoing conversation with your customer about what their needs are, where the value is that you can provide. If you're not doing that, you're actually eliminating, or certainly not growing, the stickiness of the relationship you have with your customer. You need to be with them. You need to be listening. You need to be, whether it's on the golf course or over lunch or just at their office, you need to be having that conversation, not only with them, but the key stakeholders in the business. Monthly recurring revenue, additional incremental revenue, comes as much from those conversations as anything, but it also creates a much tighter bond between you and your customers.
Very good. Let's shoot on to the next point is, what are some of the creative ways that MSPs can expand their footprint with existing customers? Why don't I throw this in your lap, Ryan?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've been in the electronic payment space for a long time, and this last 12 months we launched a partner program called Rev. And what we found, this is really based on partner feedback and feedback from our partners and clients when they'd interface with Connect Booster as an end user, payment portal. Most of the time, our partners are serving other service-based businesses, and so when they have that exposure, they're interested in having that same type of service for their business. So as we, throughout the years, our technology wasn't necessarily ready for that, but this last 12 months, we really focused on some changes in our software, where we've created a real interesting revenue opportunity where technology intersects with the network where technology intersects with payments, flowing over the network, and our integrations, not only into the ecosystem tools that people are used to inside of the channel, but then some of our core integrations into accounting packages. So if we take QuickBooks as an example, just a broad example, they own about 80% of the market share in North America for SMBs. Well, that's one of our core integrations. So, if invoice of record in our MSPs and client lives in QuickBooks, they invoice their clients for payments, and they're looking for a way to securely store payment data, which we all know PCI compliance, a lot of time that gets thrown in our lap and we're not ready for it at any given time, right? And creates all of these interesting complexities and scans that need to happen. Well, it doesn't have to be that way, and it doesn't have to be so complicated, but it's implementing the right technology for your end user to make sure that compliance is happening, keeping that data safe, while at the same time giving them business efficiency, and all that's tied to recurring revenue, because that's how the electronic payments world works, that's how the SaaS world works. And so we're able to come in and help our partners with that program solve real business problems for their end clients, at the same time creating a new revenue stream that they're getting access to, again, to help grow that wallet share that typically they've never had access to, or they didn't even necessarily feel like they had a right to win, right? They're like, I don't want to talk about electronic payments, but there is an inherent right to that conversation based on data security. There's an inherent right to that conversation based on working to elevate yourself as a VCIO and interfacing and helping them make business decisions about the business line application software, that they're bringing into their business. And so, we're really excited about the results that we've seen, because I think it's opened a lot of eyes to a really powerful source of recurring revenue. At the same time, it's taking care of a lot of the problems that they run into when a client is running electronic payments over their network or needs to store payment data. So that's really where we're seeing it in our world here at Connect Booster and Rev, and where we feel our partners have a very unique right to win and win new revenue month after month after month.
Hey, Ryan, with payments too, over the last 10 years, that whole industry has changed, right? A lot of people 10 years ago would pay cash for everything, and that's not quite a thing anymore. How is that translating into more opportunities for MSPs?
Well, it's really interesting. This last 12 months, it's become that much more apparent, right? You talk about us being quarantined. We literally run into situations where the partner would call us, and maybe they had some brand awareness, and maybe the pain wasn't great enough for them to want to implement Connect Booster, but all of a sudden, when they have a client that felt they wrote a check, that's sitting in a mailbox, and no one's going into the office, the MSP hasn't been paid, and the end client feels like they paid, that creates an awkward situation. And that's where electronic payments really got very important, even over the last year. And yes, it's been a trend that's been changing in B2B payments, but there's also this is kind of a sideline point. But with a tool like Connect Booster, when you are bringing that to your end clients and you're helping them ensure their cash flow, especially in a situation like it was over the last 12 months, you're helping assure your cash flow too. You want, that payment chain can break at some point, and that's not good for you as an MSP. There's some really cool motivation in making sure that your end client is getting paid, their cash flow is solid, and then that flowing back up to you. That's a pretty nice hedge, so. Yeah, it's been an interesting 12 months for sure.
That's the understatement of the year, I think, right now. So
yeah.
Fantastic. How about Dan? Let's throw this off to you. How do you see MSPs expanding their footprints with existing customers?
So it's in some ways the polar opposite of where Ryan's innovating. Ryan's innovating on SaaS payment procurement and recurring revenue with the client. It's amazing. Ted and I talk about it. He joked about how long we've known each other, but we've been around from the early days of managed services and the adoption of recurring revenue when we had to define what it was. What has transpired over that period of time, however, is also the consistency and the value of the foundation of our industry, which has been hardware, software, and assets inside the environment. You know, we've had cloud come in, we've had virtualization come in. Where our partners are seeing incredible growth is actually refocusing back to the fundamentals of the business. The number of assets actually ballooned as a part of the COVID situation. The requirement to better communicate with your customers in a new way with new automated tools with better data and information also is accelerated. You know, Ted said the golf course. Well, you know, Ryan and I still have snow on the ground because we can't golf anyway, but the ability to do and communicate your value over Zoom has been critically important. And very specifically, I'll give you a data point, our partners have seen a 75% increase in extended warranty sales. Where as money has been flowing uphill since the downturn of 2008, I think it has driven some not best practices, to be fair about it. We've left a lot of money on the table in planning and proactively working with our customers to plan hardware rotations. That's easy enough to do probably when the economics are good. When the economics aren't as good or a little more unstable, where do we go? And extended warranty services, again, has gone from a lose-lose situation to a win-win situation for both the IT service provider and their customers. And we've seen partners who've never done warranties before get into it and see rapid growth. And it's fulfilled the foundational value that IT service providers have been delivering to their clients for 20 years. Operational information, data-driven decisions to help them standardize. And Ryan, you talked about standardization. It's core to what we do as well. Standardizing their operation internally and standardizing the environments of which they're managing, strengthening client relationships through, Ted, as you brought up, QBRs and sharing information and data, and then driving top-line revenue and profitability for MSPs. So just as we saw, Ted, in 08 of the economic downturn, it actually came out with some very healthy, outcomes as IT service providers had to get better. Back then it was rising gas prices, right? You couldn't afford to roll a truck to do a non-paying service call anymore. That was an enormous catalyst of why RMM and PSA and the whole managed services accelerated simultaneously.
For sure.
That makes perfect sense. And I know, Ted, you've spent some time around the incremental income side of the table, both from an MSP as well as on the vendor side. You want to share your insight on this part?
Yeah, sure. Actually, from a Zomentum perspective, like this question was almost written to accentuate the real value proposition of Zomentum. Just a little bit about how we help our partners quote and put proposals together and put assessments together. There's a single engine that does all of that in Zomentum. So it's microsite capable, which means it's infinitely flexible. And the best practices associated with putting a quote or a proposal out there are things like, let your customer choose from multiple options about how they want their services or their hardware or whatever the deliverable is delivered. And we give you the ability to do that in real time. Let your partners choose how many laptops they want, how many this they want, how many the other they want. Let them choose their level of managed services within the quote. Let them ask questions in the quote and get instantaneous answers. Let them see the pain associated with what their network is keeping them from doing today and show them the value of what the upgrade to a best practices managed service profile, whatever that means to you, can be. All of these things that are simple one-click solutions within Zomentum. So from an operations perspective, the way to drive incremental revenue is to make sure that you're always quoting it, to make sure you're always talking about it, to make sure that it is easy for them to select additional revenue opportunities from you, and let them spend what they need to spend. We actually learned this I love the fact that our entire community shares so much. There are days where that oversharing sometimes doesn't feel that great, but on most days, we looked up one day and a partner of ours, Steve Dempsey, had posted a YouTube video about how he had increased his sales to customers by an average ticket amount of 40%, maybe 60%. He says what it is in the video, as a result of giving all that optionality to his customers. Typically, he'd send out a quote, this is what you need to buy. Now he's sending out a conversation. And he also had the ability to create a video and attach it to the quote so he can walk the customer through at their own convenience without having to get on the phone whenever they're ready to consume. If they're ready to consume the information at midnight, great. Here it is. Here's 2 minutes about what these options mean, what you can do, why we're doing it, whatever, you know, like my trip to Disney, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're giving them the ability to have the conversation when they want to have the conversation, make the decision, and auto sign the quote and move on down the road. These things are all powerful because they take what Ryan's talking about and what Dan's talking about, and they accelerate the ability for your customer to just go make a decision. I mean, decide now. You can. You don't have to ask questions. You don't have to do all that stuff. You can just make a decision. And I got to tell you, I feel like I make a lot of decisions every day. I'm sure Dan makes a lot of decisions every day. I know I see Ryan all the time, so I'm sure like we all of us want our decisions to be simpler. We want to have all the data so that we can decide and move on to the next thing that's on our plate. And I'm sure that's true of everybody out here listening to the webinar today. So help your customers do that. You'll add a lot of value to the relationship with them.
So Brian, are you the evil genius who was smart enough to put ScalePad, who identifies the need for hardware rotation, with Zomentum, who has the ability to quote on the service, and Connect Booster, who helps you generate or watch that revenue come through the door in a more automated fashion? Are you behind this? I think, guys, I think we're being a little puppeteered here by an evil genius there, putting us together.
I won't take credit for it, but it is a natural fit. No, you're right, Dan. And you know, Ted, when you talk through, you know, like the ways Zomentum works, it reminds me of like the auto industry. In the auto industry, with their configurators that do online, I found that they get more profit per car when they went through that process now than they used to in the old days when you'd go into the dealership and be pressured by a salesperson and order. When people can sit home and do it in the comfort of their home, that the price and the profit per car has increased. So it's an interesting tie-in, I think, to
For sure. I know I am my own best salesperson. When I'm left alone with Amazon, like I get to the point where I'm like, oh, I just need to go buy something on Amazon. What problem do I have today? The magic of that is just that nobody's selling it to me. I don't feel.
I'll put my wife up against you any day. Ted is the best consumer with Amazon on the planet. But anyway, I digress. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. So we've talked about, you know, some of the opportunities, and I know I mentioned VoIP and all the peripheral opportunities. I mean, are still there. There's probably, you could trip over business in many businesses when you walk in the door. And I hear those stories every day, but how can MSPs properly incentivize their sales teams to look for these hidden gems as opposed to spending their time, you know, they've got to balance that with landing new clients as well, but you got to pry them away from that, or at least have an account management team to dig deeper in here. What are your thoughts? Ryan, you're shaking your head. Why don't I let you go?
Well, I think it comes down to, you know, having very intentional business planning, you know, as you're going into a new year, and understanding where you're trying to grow your revenue, because you know, depending on your goals and what you're trying to do, that can actually shift from year to year, right? And so then you need to take a look at, okay, where am I going to bring, you know, the growth revenue from? Is it new client acquisition? Great. Is it incremental internal revenue, growing wallet share? Great. I argue you should always have a target around that. You know, we talked about the economics of that, right? It just plain old makes sense from a number of different viewpoints. But then you need to incentivize your sales team. You need to incentivize around the behavior that you want to drive inside of your organization. That's mission critical. You cannot just assume as an owner or an operator or a manager that your team is going to understand what's going on in your mind, even if you relay it very practically to them. If there's not incentive around the behavior that you want to drive you'll be sadly disappointed. I can promise you that, because I'm talking from mistakes that I've made inside of my own business and assumptions, right? An assumption makes an ass of you and me, and then we're sitting there a quarter into the year and you're like, how come we're not performing? Well, it's about that planning, it's about the incentive, and it's about making sure that mix is aligning with the goals that you have over the course of that year.
Dan, you have thoughts on this? Is there
I do.
is there a certain mix? I guess is the question too. Is I know it varies by business, but how did they figure out what that mix would be?
I mean, I think Ryan's got it right on. First and foremost, it's planning and identifying what the objective is going to be for the year. I think that the absolute worst thing you can do is to tell your salespeople, hey, go find us some incremental revenue, or go look over there and see. I mean, no structure means no results. You need to not only understand what your objective is and where you want to identify opportunities inside your business, then you need to plan for it, operationalize it, drive every KPM data point you can. That you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And then last but not least, put the money where the results are that you want to achieve are. Commission plans are an art form. There should be a 3-year course at your local community college before anybody tries to take it on. Just say, saying, hey, we'll give you X% of revenue is going to get you 0, because you're now putting the burden on the salesperson to go find the revenue that will magically appear for them. So I think, I think Ryan and I could spend an hour talking about making the mistakes or seeing where it is, but that's the greatest sort of guidance I could provide after writing a comp plan every year for 20 years for pretty large sales organizations is put the money where you want them to go and know how they are going to get there so that you can actually resource them to be successful. Sales is not mythical. Sales is an operational, process-driven activity equals result. And if you manage it the same way you manage your IT services organization for service delivery, you will 100% of the time succeed or know what you need to change to succeed.
Preach it. Preach it.
Ed, any thoughts to share on the incentivizing side?
Just this, that when you lay out the goals of the organization that both of these fine gentlemen have talked about, and you know what you're trying to drive and what you're trying to grow, managing the behaviors of communication with your customers is just as important as putting the sales plan out there. I want to make sure my sales leadership is touching base with my customers on a regular basis, according to a cadence, talking about the things that we see that are of value to that customer and making sure that we're adding that kind of value. So if that drives incremental revenue, then I want to bonus that behavior, not only as an MBO, as you showed up once a month, you met with that customer once a month, and you made sure that they knew we were here and these were the things we were talking about, but also as a result of the incremental revenue that's driven. Quite frankly, I believe in the model of hunters and farmers. I like to have farmers farming and chasing the incremental revenue, and that's their job. I like to have hunters looking at prospects. You go to different places, you perform different activities, you drive different behaviors as a direct result of that work. Those two jobs are not very often even similar, and generally most salespeople are better at one or the other. Now, not every MSP is big enough or has the sales budget in order to do that, but if you can and if you do, the results you see will be amazing. I have sort of firsthand knowledge of the Rev program. One of the interesting things about Rev program that Ryan had, you get paid for setting appointments with the Rev program. You get paid $100 every time one of the appointments runs to sell Connect Booster. Like that's the most insane MDF program I have ever seen. You just get paid for setting appointments. You want to motivate salespeople? Give that $100 to them every time they set an appointment, whether it's on the new prospect side or whether it is on the existing customer who we want to sell this monthly recurring revenue opportunity to. Either way, they're getting paid for just showing up, you know? I mean, like, that's one of the greatest motivators I've ever seen.
Ryan, I'll be calling after this is over with, just so you know.
Play your cards right.
Like,
That's awesome. Well, we talked about, putting budgets together and plans, but, few businesses have unlimited budgets. We wish that wasn't true, but how can MSPs get their clients to pay for more of these new services? Is there a way what's the best way? I'll leave it to you guys to answer that. Dan,
I don't even know if all of them are new. I mean, Ryan talked about, existing transactions that are going on inside the environments. For us, it's existing hardware that needs to be planned. I think, again, a great lesson out of what we've gone through here in the last 12 months. I really go back to what we went through in 2008. The sky was falling, and in fact, what happened is it made us all better. It drove profitability, and I think I shared something with somebody else on a podcast the other day, and they said, money's been flowing uphill since '08, and it just struck me. I mean, we've gotten perhaps a little, and I'm not saying nobody's not put in the effort, and we haven't broken our backs and worked hard for our clients. But have we been as fiscally responsible to our own businesses and as value driven to our customers as perhaps we could have been? Did a few of us look in the mirror as the pandemic hit and go, gee, we probably could have been a little more efficient in a couple of areas inside our business, and maybe gotten a little lackadaisical, and that's not for lack of innovation and not for lack of effort, but I think that's a very important component. Again, Brian, I saw firsthand with our partners around the globe, hardware budgets were frozen, declined. So the length of the assets that they were deployed were asked to do more. That drove up, expanded revenue opportunities with extended warranties. So again, that's something that should have been done. There should not be a server on the planet inside your customer environment that is not covered by a service contract. And you would be shocked about the volume that there is. Our average partner, the average MSP, has about $135,000 in extended warranty service opportunities. And that's not, again, self-serving just to drive that sale. That's protecting your customer to make sure that the parts are available and the response time is there should anything go awry. Because if it does, it's going to be increased cost for you and increased downtime for your customer.
Ted?
How do they pay for these new services? Well, here's the thing. The security front is a landscape that is changing so fast and that is so terrifying to everyone that if you're not having that conversation with your customer, they might actually be wondering if you're actually paying attention to what's going on with them. So any conversation about improving their security posture is a valuable one, and it can drive incremental revenue. That's number one. Two, and this is just the most old-fashioned common sense mentality about selling. If you can't show your customer the value to their business, either in additional revenue or additional safety and protection, then you shouldn't be having the conversation in the first place. Right. Conning them into buying something from you is a strategy for not having any customers anymore. So it's critically important that the leadership in your MSP is thinking about strategically what businesses need in order to be successful, in order to drive more revenue, and then introducing those technology options to all of your customers and figuring out which ones fit. And some MSPs, and I was guilty of this myself, think they already know everything about what their customers are thinking about. You never do. You never really understand all the things that are running through their mind. So have the conversation. Hey, this is the technology that we have seen solve XYZ problem time and time again for our customers and for others' customers. Is this something that's interesting to you? No? Cool. Let's go talk about something else. Yes? Glad I asked, because I wouldn't have thought that based on what I know of your business, but help me understand. Help me understand. If you say help me understand 150 times a year, you will not waste any time doing that. Your customers love to talk about their business, and you being willing to talk about their business makes all the difference in the world. So I mean, if they don't have any budget, they don't have any budget. And let's face it, there are some restaurants out there and other industries right now that are struggling completely on the struggle bus from a budget perspective. But there are also all kinds of businesses who have to solve problems as they move forward and make life better. Like Brian needs new lights. So we need to sell them some. No,
It's dark in Pennsylvania this time of day.
For sure. I really think it is about focusing on the value conversation as opposed to figuring out how to dig. They'll find the budget. That's their job. Your job is to show them the value and the upside.
But you're right. I think a lot of times, those conversations, like every business is a nonprofit. It's their budget's solid. It doesn't change, but it's all about enablement today with technology. How can you help them sell more? How can you help them increase their?
I'm so glad you said that. I was in a conversation with a very visionary CEO who was telling me not that long ago that his company has 70 apps that they're using in their business every single day. That sounds like a nightmare to me, but his take was maybe a couple of them are fringe, but they're all necessary to our business. In that scenario, management of all of those apps is another incremental revenue opportunity that if you can add value there and help tie those things together, understand where data is, et cetera, and so on. It's more VCIO stuff. You got to be ready to go take that on. But it's another place where you can add a lot of value and be delivering a solution to a problem that I am sure most companies are facing right now.
Oh, that's a good point. Brian, thoughts on that?
I'm just always a little bit thrown off at times, even in our channel where, people associate sales with a dirty word, and I think these guys really hit the nail on the head. If you're selling something that doesn't have a massive amount of value or solving pain, yeah, okay, that is selling, and quite frankly, you shouldn't be doing it. At the same time, your ability to come in and have a great conversation to uncover pain, talk about what are they doing now as we're coming out of this pandemic to pivot, like having real business conversations to go into discovery mode. All of a sudden, you will find budgets like melt away when you are digging in with the right questions. And the right questions don't even necessarily need to be all planned out. What you need to be is genuinely curious about their business. That is when the relationships that you have start opening up. And that's not sales. That's a conversation between peers. That's a conversation between a trusted resource. That's not sales. And that's, I think that's absolutely critical. And if you're not curious as to what their plan is, the next move, or the areas that they're moving inside of your business, yeah, you're probably going to run into a brick wall. I think that's got to be a key critical part as businesses that serve other businesses. You need to be genuinely curious in how their model's changing and where what you offer can intersect and ultimately improve and add value. And guys, that's sales, but that doesn't sound like sales, does it? That sounds like a great conversation over lunch or a snowy golf course. How about that?
Ryan, I couldn't agree more. In fact, I think we should ban the term salespeople. I will tell you that we brought on 2,000 new partners last year. I don't have a single salesperson at ScalePad. We have partner development executives and partner development managers. None of them are in sales. Do they have quotas? Yes. Do they have targets? Yes. Do they have KPIs that we hold them accountable to? Yes. But their core job, Ted, all the way back to what you said, is to provide value and education to the IT services community to see if a platform like ours can help them drive their business forward. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think it's incredibly impactful. You're a managed service provider. You're not a technology reseller. Right? We abandoned those terms years ago, and it's put them in a category which the majority of the IT services community is no longer in. You are managing their IT infrastructure and services, collaboration, value, virtual CIO, I mean, we joked about that term years ago, right? That would be the next evolutionary acronym that we would apply to our industry, and here it is. We're seeing it firsthand. Never has it been about sales. It's a win-win. It's going to cost you some money, absolutely. Here's your return on that investment. Let's collaborate as a unit to drive the best value for your customer. And the revenue that comes out of it, you should not feel sheepish or ashamed about. That is the measurement of the value you are delivering to the customer. But don't go out to do any sales. Go out to solve technology and problems for your customers. The money will come with solving those problems.
And the one word I think that you hit on earlier, Dan, too, is consultant. Is at the end of the day, that term has such friendly connotation to it because it's supportive. Is you're there to consult, to help, to automate in many cases, because automation provides efficiency, which helps pay for these things too. The efficiency is crucial. But before I forget, we got about 15 minutes left potential in the session. I want to throw out, if you have questions for the panel, please use the question section on the wherever it's located in your GoToMeeting section. For me, it's off to the right. Look around. Yeah, it takes a little instruction.
It's tool fatigue, man. Every one of these is a little bit different, right? You're like,
yes.
where is that now?
Brian, don't forget to remind them all the hard questions go to Ryan.
Okay.
You said Brian, right? They all go to Brian?
They go to Ryan. Well, if that's the case, then let's throw the next one off to Ryan here. They
Great.
threw you under the bus.
Oh, here you go.
Right.
So Ryan, how can MSPs ensure that any of their new revenue generating options don't negatively affect their sales efficiency? And that's a key thing, is get them bogged down to make them so that they're moving on. We kind of touched on it earlier, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I feel you know, and I bring up the point again, and Dan talked a lot about this as well. So did Ted. I mean, about driving and measuring the behavior around the business goals and business objectives. So you're not ending up with the result that you didn't intend, and you're winding up in this situation, you know, as the question states. Because, you know, actually the question, it's a great question, Brian, because that is going to be the result of a lack of planning and intentionality. You will get exactly what you just stated if you do not do it. So if that's what you're looking for, don't plan. If you're not looking for it, you better sit down and pay attention to the objectives inside of your business. And, you know, I'll do a shameless plug for EOS, because, you know, we're fanboys. I have nothing obviously to gain from that, but I'll tell you what, like the act of having a roadmap of organizing these things, the ability to hold teams accountable through a structure. You know, we even to the point where we have an outside consultant come in and hold us accountable to running that program right. You know, a lot of us as owners, you get into a bad trap if you feel like you don't have to answer to someone. And I think there is a lot of value around the structure and implementation of that planning and accountability on how to make sure that you at the top of your organization are then driving the actions down, you know, to management, sales management, to operations. None of that happens without clear operational direction and efficiency. And so, you know, we've benefited greatly, you know, from EOS in that structure. And there are a number of great structures out there. I would just recommend get serious about looking at one, and that's going to help you avoid the result of what that question would be if you don't walk down that path.
And Ted, up to Zomentum is basically an efficiency platform to help on the sales side too, for MSPs. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And as it applies to this question, if you are absolutely efficient in your transactional capabilities, if it's one button click send and the partner or your customer has one button click accept and order, you eliminate a lot of the incremental costs associated with incremental revenue. which makes it much easier to not worry about the negatively affecting sales efficiency. I clicked a button, I sent a quote. They clicked a button, they ordered 3 of what I sent because they decided it was a good idea. Oh, wow, sales efficiency is pretty amazing at that point.
Yeah.
That having been said, and I kind of referred or mentioned this before, sales efficiency comes, there's no more powerful, no more effective salesperson than the person who has clear agenda, clear goals, and clear deliverables that make sense, that are well thought out, and that are well supported. It is really the most joyful thing in the world as a salesperson to know that your company is 100% behind this deliverable that adds this value proposition. It's clearly documented. Everybody knows what the win is. It's something that people are talking about. Whatever the things are, when a salesperson is appropriately supported and they know they can go close the deal, get out of the way, and the team will go execute on the deliverable, you're going to close a lot of deals. And you're going to get incremental revenue that is tied to those deals. I mean, for most well thought out sales organizations and technology organizations, driving the revenue initially also drives a whole bunch of incremental revenue later. So I guess what I'm saying is the strategy associated with going to market is going to impact sales efficiency more than any other single thing. And to Ryan's point and Dan's point, if you don't have a plan and if it's not well thought out, then you are going to end up with fragments of revenue as opposed to designed revenue. And that's just going to make it harder for you. So as CEO, I mean, Dan and I used to talk every single day about working on your business instead of working in your business. It's still as valuable today as it was way back when, but at points during the year, you need to look at what your deliverables are and think strategically, how is this going to help our business and at the same time help our customers' business and make the revenue opportunity viable. And you'll get great results every single time.
Excellent. Dan, any final thoughts on that?
I'll summarize: plan, process, automate, monitor. If you do those 4 things, you can't lose. And these 2 gentlemen set up that so I could swing it out of the park there.
You get
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I admired Dan Winsley from afar back when I was an MSP.
Yeah.
No, and I think that to Dan's point, with the 3 basically platforms and sales opportunities of your companies that you have, those are great examples for what an MSP can do to increase their incremental revenue. There's so many other options out there for them as well, but spend time, talk to the vendors that you're working with on ways that you can kind of reach deeper into and gaining some wallet share. We haven't even used that term, wallet share. That's one we usually throw out. I'm surprised it took this long for me to think about that today. But no, that's great. With that said, why don't we do final wrap up here for the topic. Ryan, what are your final thoughts on growing incremental sales from the discussion today? What would you like to leave the audience with?
I would say it's planned for it, and if you take anything away from this presentation, you're not going to execute towards a target that you haven't set, and you can't. If you're not measuring it, it can't be managed, and so you need to be intentional around those things. And if you do those things, Dan said it really well. You will either guarantee success or you will guarantee to uncover the gaps that you didn't know existed, so then you can work on them, and that's the value.
Yeah,
Very good.
I would agree. I think we've covered a lot here today, and we've talked about all the upside. I think fail fast is the other one, and monitoring is a great way to identify that. Do not beat your head against the wall doing the same mistake over and over or hoping it's going to get better. If you can't identify why you're failing, stop doing it, and go back to the planning process. So fail fast is one maybe we haven't touched on today. Plan, process, automate, monitor. And fail fast would be the last thing I'd add, Brian.
That's great.
And Ted, bring us home.
Sure. Couple things. First of all, make sure you have the tools in place that allow you to drive leads into your business. Make sure you have the tools in place that allow you to effectively sell. You already probably have the PSA and the RMM and all the other technological tools in place to deliver great value. So put as much investment and time into growing your business as you do into taking care of your customers. The second thing, which just literally occurred to me 30 seconds ago, is take advantage of this webinar. This was an hour of people talking about what you can do to improve sales in your business. So sit down with your head of sales or your salespeople or your entire organization. This is recorded. Ask Brian for the recording. Run the recording back. Spend an hour with your sales team and say, what are we doing well here? What are we doing poorly here? How can we leverage the data that was given to us here and turn our business into a more effective sales business? There's something in here for every organization, whether you're great at it or whether you're just getting started. So take advantage of the webinar. Make this a valuable part of your day.
Ted, can I take that one step further? The other thing you can do is tell your customers about this. Tell your customers that I invested an hour of my time to learn from industry experts and invest in some more education. How many shows do you go to? Peer groups, webinars, white papers you read. All of that is your investment in being able to better service your customers. So I wouldn't maybe say I went to a sales conference to find out how to sell you more stuff, but you came here to say I was educating myself on how to maybe better provide services and value to you. That's incredibly powerful, and why you deserve the big money that you get as an MSP, because you are staying educated. So not only internally, but take it externally as well. Sorry, Ted. Thank you.
No, great advice. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, excellent advice. And first off, before I close out, I want to thank Ryan Goodman from Connect Booster, Ted Roller from Zomentum, and Dan Wensley from ScalePad for taking an hour of their time to share their expertise too, and you know, all their years of experience. There's a lot of years there in this group. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
And we'd like to thank Brian. Again, we said it, Ted, the evil genius who put all this together and does such a great job keeping the thought process going for the three of us. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you. But I'm the face, and I want to thank Zomentum for hosting us today. Let me make sure that I have all of the information here. Can everybody see the final screen? What I wanted to let you know is to thank everybody who joined us for the conversation today. If you wish to learn more about any of our speakers, their partner programs, their offerings, check out their websites or use the contact information on this slide. And I'll leave this up as we close out the session today. I want to thank again all of our panelists and wish you all a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. Enjoy your weekend.
Nice job, Ryan. Ted was terrible, but you were fantastic.
I don't see you. Your voice came out of nowhere. I was like, what? Is he in my office?
I think we're still live. Brian hasn't turned this off, so.
Well, we're down to 5 attendees, so I can vape again.
This is just great. This is great B-roll. It's called B-roll.
B-roll, exactly.
B-roll.
Yes.
You get B-roll.
It is a great one. I think the only way I can shut it off is to sign out, unless anybody has another suggestion.
No, but Ryan, I would suggest we get this in front of Rob, this content, or maybe even Eric, and use it to get some B-roll for the roadshow. Shameless plug for the 5 of you who are still here for the roadshow that we're doing later in the year. Because I mean, this topic is timely every single place and time. So cool.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Right. Okay,
Bye,
let's start a petition, Ryan. Ban the term sales. Let's get it out there. Come on, we can do this. We can change the world.
We can do it.
Yeah.
I just need to stop saying it.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
I'm
See,
hiring a
good.
VP of sales. I'm
Good
hiring
consulting.
sales right now, and I have to tell everybody I interview, by the way, the first day, your title's changing from VP sales to VP of partner development. It's
Guys,
literally my first.
I gotta go.
Okay, Ted's got to go. Let Ted go.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, Ted.
Bye.
Goodbye.
See you guys.
See you, Ryan. Good to see you, brother. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers.